Hello, this is Georgia Pomadora, and today we will be discussing about Industry 2.0 in partial requirement of the course MTTE 513 by Dr. Sarah O. Namoko. But first, let's discuss the main features involved in the Industrial Revolution were technical, socioeconomic, and cultural changes. This made possible a tremendous increase in the use of natural resources and mass production of manufactured goods. The development of working class movements and sweeping social changes, and also the confidence in the ability to use these resources and to master nature was heightened during these times. First, let's come to discuss the technological changes brought about by this revolution, the Industrial Revolution. The first Industrial Revolution, by the way. First, the emergence of the iron and steel industry, where the use of iron and steel became prevalent during these times. Secondly, the use of new energy sources, fuels, coal, steam engines, electrification, the discovery of petroleum, and the invention of the internal combustion engine, ang kaning makina, sasakyanan. So also other machines were developed like this power loom, this spinning jenny, ang kanang new ways of create tela, textile industry. Nagsugod og boom anang time. Fourthly, the organization of the factory system, manufacturing processes were developed during those times, and this entails increased division of labor and specialization of function, which later we will discuss. The fifth technological changes involves the development in transportation and communication. This is where the time when transportation and communication started to really be the norm, where locomotive, steamship was developed during these times, automobile, Ford, Model T Ford automobiles, earth, aircraft, telegraph, the means of communication, and the radio. And also, over all these times, the increased application of science and technology, not just hearsays, not just unsay imong natunan before, mao gyapon ang imong gina-apply karon. But then, scientific process was starting to be involved in the actual design of the materials. Secondly, the socio-economic changes. The shift from agricultural to non-agricultural backbone of the economy. It's not just the source of the economy, the agricultural produce, but then manufacturing became prevalent. Big industrial plants came into being by during those times due to the change of the factory system. Then secondly, the economic changes that resulted by this shift from agricultural to non-agricultural source of living. The distribution of wealth became wider, not just the landowner has the wealth and the peasants are the one to till the land. But now even peasants and ordinary citizens can become wealthier by the opportunities presented by the industrial processing, manufacturing of goods, mass production of goods. And then thirdly, the political change shift from the landowners, from the royalty, from the noblemen who owned this vast amount of lands. The wealth shifted towards the industrial tycoon, the one who patented the designs, the one who discovered this branch of science, who applied this into design and then produce his own design and sell it. So the the political change in power shifted from those traditional things, landowners, the one who owned everything, and then it shifted towards the one that has sold a lot of things and became wealthy out of it. Fourth, in the socioeconomic change is the sweeping social changes. Of course, the consequence of shifting from, you know, the vast amount of wealth from these landowners towards the ones that run the industry. So there are sweeping social changes. The money came down to the working class, and a new emergence of new patterns of authority. So the experts in their fields are the ones in authority now. The expert in the economy, the expert in marketing these products, the expert in designing these products, new innovative products, and that creates a new way of communication, a new way of transportation, the new way of creating things. So they became the lever, the turning point in this social shift. And last, the cultural transformation of a broad order. So, whereas before, kining mga peasant, kining mga artisan is just few and far between ng mga trained and expert sa ilang field. No? But then, pag abot sa mass production and the factory system wherein a lot of workers are needed to produce a product and produce them by hordes, by thousands, not just by a piece. So, companies began training their workers, and thus these ordinary individuals acquired new distinctive skills, and the relation to their task shifted. They became expert in their fields. They became this particular field became their area of expertise, and subsequently they became the leaders in their own fields. And lastly, in this changes entailed by the Industrial Revolution, the confidence in the ability to use resources and to master nature was heightened. So it's like they have the world in their hands during these times. People have their mindsets opened and changed and shifted, that there's a vast possibility for them to be had ahead, because these things are just starting to grow, to boom, and to develop. Okay, let's come to the actual topic, the Industry 2.0, wherein this is actually the second wave of the Industrial Revolution. The term actually is technological revolution now, whereas before is an industrial revolution. So, the major technological innovations including electricity, electronic and mechanical devices, and the cars are developed during these times and still widely used today, as of this day, 21st century. Okay, what are the major development and advancement during these times. Let's discuss one by one. These the discovery of petroleum, the advancement in material science, uh, new developments in mechanization, in transportation, in communication, in even in agricultural advancement. So first we had the iron and steel. As I've mentioned earlier, during the first wave of industrial revolution, the industry 1.0, the use of iron and steel became the norm. So the increasing production of iron and steel grew and grew and grew until during this time, the development of a new and better way to produce iron and steel from the ore came into being by the development of the hot blast or the blast furnace. Thus, the production of steel and iron became cheaper than it was before because of this new development in producing them, which lowers the cost. Thus, the emergence of the railway in 1930 is a direct result of this new development in producing iron and steel. So, in consequence of the decreased cost of iron and steel and the domino effect of new and cheaper way of production of iron and steel, rail became the dominant form of transport infrastructure. Rail is actually a cast iron, a railroad track wherein trains can run. So this became prevalent and a dominant form of transportation throughout the industrialized world, producing a steady decrease in the cost of shipping seen for the rest of the century. So shipping of goods and farm produce became easier and much more cheaper by the invention of the railroad tracks and the trains. Next is the electrification. So the increased use of electricity. Electricity was discovered way before these times. But then the um, the way of life of using electricity became saturated and prevalent in their in use during this second wave of technical revolution. So the National Academy of Engineering termed electrification as the most important engineering development of the 20th century because the dominant effect of using electricity to other areas of science in electronics, in automotive, in communication, even in transportation. So electricity became the way of life then and even now by allowing a final major development in manufacturing methods and also the development of the assembly line and mass production. So it became a major source of energy in producing products. In the new way of producing things, the factory system. Next is the development in telecommunication. So by the emergence of electrification, consequently, na-develop dayon gihapon ang telecommunication by the Maxwell electromagnetic theory. No? The coming into one niche ang light, ang electricity, and magnetism. So kung imo na siyang i-dungan tulo into one product, ang result ana is kining mga generators, motors and transformers, and the ability to be connected to telegraph network throughout the country. Easier na dayon ang communication. So, kining mga panahon ni emerge na ang radio, ni emerge na ang telephone, telegraph, the Morse code and everything. Kay possible naman mo connect from one place, layo kayo, to the other place, na layo pag kayo through telegraph networks. The next is the mechanization, so development of machines. So everything became mechanized now. Wala na hand tools kaayo, no? Nga pag create ni mag-isa ka butang, mura dugay gid kaayo mahuman. As before, kung mag-order ang hari o crown baka design or iyang throne nga chair or a table or everything, dugay gid kaayo ni siya mahuman sa gi-commission nga artisan or kinsa bay expert ani nga field nga produce aning gi-order sa king. But now, where everything can be produced by mass, not just singly, but dinaghan. So, kini nga mga panahon, dini na dayon ang posible na dayon ang pag-produce of practically anything. From maybe food to a novelty item down to the production of cars due to the mechanization, easier way of creating things, manufacturing things through the use of machines and other mechanized equipment. So as I've mentioned earlier, due to the discovery or the increased use of electrification and new machines are developed and shift from agricultural industry to manufacturing industry. So the Industrial Revolution changed the way that goods are produced and gave birth to mass production, the division of labor, increasing prevalence of machines in the factory. So during these times, women became workers also, not just the men, because the opportunity to work became open to them due to the need of workers, a large amount of workers to work in the factory to produce these goods in greater volume than before. The savings from mass production methods allowed the price of the Model T, the first car no, that Ford produced. So the price started to decline from $780 to $360 in 1916. Of course, kini nga mga presyo gamay rin sa tong tanaw no, but way back mahal kayo ni. It's comparable maybe to a 30,000 US dollars or a 30 to 40 grand, 50 grand nga sakyanan, which is the normal price of a brand new car. So, what's the meaning of declining in price? Because of the cheaper, easier way to produce these cars, that you don't need to pay large amount of money to a single person expert in doing in producing or manufacturing these things, but you're able to produce this cheaply through mechanization and several not so expert in this field, but machines are able to produce a precise shape of machine parts in a cheaper, economical way, and more faster than commissioning artisan. So this contributed to a affordable price of the Model T Ford. This was the first time in history that petroleum was truly what's this? The use of petroleum was truly maximized during this times, because way before, in the industry, the first wave of industrial revolution, they discovered petroleum, but they didn't know what to do with the byproducts of petroleum. So it's just refining the crude oil and turn it to a usable oil for whatever purpose it was used before. But then now they started to tinker on the byproduct of the petroleum, also the gasoline. So crude oil, the crude oil, of course, you can use it to fuel machines. But then the gasoline, they still didn't know what to do with it until the mass production of automobiles. And then they discovered the main use of gasoline that powered automobiles. Isn't it wonderful that wala gina waste sa kining resources from nature? Naagi purpose ang bisag byproduct na nga wa kabalon sa buhaton ana, no? So even the extraction of turbinite, shale, and bituminous coal to manufacture naphtha and lubricating oils. So coal before is chiefly used to power steam engines, power locomotives, power even steamships. But now they dili lang coal ang magamit di ay to power things, but the byproduct of petroleum and petroleum itself, the crude oil extracted from the petroleum, can also be used, and also the byproduct, the gasoline. So here it is, the automobile. The first automobile was actually developed by Benz. Benz patent motor wagon, and German. This is a German car, right? In the late summer of 1888, making it the first commercially available automobile in history. And then Henry Ford followed suit sa iyang Model T Ford nga line of automobile. And then by the emergence of the locomotives, kanang mga mudagan, no? Automobiles, mobile nga mga automated nga car, no? Magdagan. Of course, dito na dayon ang study centered on another area, no? Kining mga natural source of saan yung pagpadagan sa imong sakyanan, the tire. So the vulcanization of rubber, ang primero ang rubber tree, from the rubber tree, wala pa kay na siya na delve into the science, but the emergence of several models already of automobile. So syempre ni follow suit na dayon ang yang ligid, no, nga sao nimo pag design ano yung mga sakyanan nga dili kayo tiresome ang pagsakay niini, nga even if lubak-lubak ang lugar, no, nagyapay degree of comfort sa imong pag-travel, especially kung long nga travel. So the vulcanization of rubber by American Charles Goodyear nang ga exist gyapon ang Goodyear until now, no? Sa kanang brand sa ligid. Sila ana nagkuan, pioneer, no? Si Charles Goodyear and Englishman Thomas Hancock in 1940s. But ang pag muna siya ang first wave industrialization, but then ni-grow ang rubber industry during gid-ani nga time kining second wave of technological revolution, Industry 2.0, by the development of vulcanization of rubber. Okay, and also John Boyd Dunlop developed the first practical pneumatic tire in 1807 in South Belfast. It's in Europe. So not just in the US, but all across Europe and Europe and the Americas. Dinhigid nag-revolutionize ang industry, ang technology na. So, ang pag-develop daw ni Dunlop sa iyang pneumatic tire arrived at a crucial time in the development of road transport, and commercial production began in the late 1890s. So, right in the midst of the second wave of the technological revolution, niabot ang pag-develop sa ligid, pneumatic nga ligid, nga hangin, no? Hangin ang kuan sa iya, drive sa iya through mechanization. So, right in the midst of the booming tire industry, sa pag-discover sa pneumatic tires na, syempre, nanadayon ang bicycle, ang bikes, nga first designed and engineered by Harry John Lawson. But then, ang successfully produced ani commercially nga mabaligya gid siya is Kemp Starley, kini John Kemp Starley. So it just made sense nga pag grow sa kining rubber industry, mo follow suit gid ang bicycle. Kay syempre unsa man lugar ang kuan aning casing sa imong ligid sa bike, rubber man gid gyapon, no? Thus, hard surface roads were built. Dagan ang gibuilt nga mga dalan ani. Possibly asphalt roads ani nga panahon, no? Asphalt road patayali ang nagkuha ni ang kay wala pa man kayo ang cement ani nga panahon. So, modern tarmac was patented by British civil engineer Edgar Purnell Hooley in 1901. Aya pa. So, kana nga panahon kining nasa bike, bicycle pa ang craze. Siyempre, mura o ano pa ni siya nga mga dalan. Kining, ano pagi, dili pa siya simento. Also, the engine and turbines. Tungod sa electrification, tungod sa mechanization, tungod sa discovery of petroleum and the right use of its byproduct, the gasoline. So, nanadayon ang the development and the production of engine and turbines. Nga mo padagan sa imong car, land transportation, as well as your ship in sea transportation, maritime transport, and naval warfare. So, ang consequence sa Industry 2.0 is actually mas sophisticated ang ilang machinery and transportation during World War I. But then, they can never see that. I mean, they can never saw that. So, right there and after the development of the turbines and the engine, syempre ni boom ang maritime technology advancement sa maritime transport and naval warfare. So, highly efficient multiple expansion steam engines began being used in ships. So, steam engine pa ni siya kay wala pa kayo gyud na develop good ang large scale use of gasoline ang power of engine. It was John Payne, engineer for the Royal Navy, who perfected the oscillating engine. One of his earliest engine was the Grasshopper beam engine. So the revolution in naval design led to the first modern battleships in the 1870s. So right in the middle of Industry 2.0, the second wave of technological advancement revolution na develop ang first modern battleship, which led actually sa a more sophisticated ng mga artillery and armament used during World War One. Tungod sa second wave of technological advancement, possibly dili tingali may tabo no ang World War One o enough devastation ang nahitabuan if walay second wave of technological advancement. But because daghan jud kayo ang na discover during these times, na create during these times, na manufacture during these times, na design ng mga new materials sa anang panahon, cutting edge technology na silang tawag no. Dili tingali kay nga naka-devastated effect sa World War One. But because of these inventions, syempre, the advancement and the design of the naval armament and warfare artillery, ni contribute good ang second wave of industrial revolution sa ani nga domino effect in the maritime technology advancement. Another major development during these times was the discovery of new materials in the area of chemistry, applied sciences. The first of which is the understanding of the chemistry to aid the development of basic inorganic chemical manufacturing and the aniline dye industry. So before nga, wala pa kay color ang mga sinina, no? Basic browns, grays, dili kayo nga nice kayo ang color, but then karon so pwede na ma-afford nga koloran, anything imong koloran. So aside kung dili na siya naturally produced, dili jud ka maka-produce of much more colorful nga design. But then by the advent of new product development during this latter end of the Industry 2.0, thermodynamic principles were even used in the development of physical chemistry. Because of the principles of magnetism and thermodynamics, syempre, ang ni-run ang mga makina through electricity and automation. So, along with it, na-develop po ang development of new and better products in the area of chemistry. Example of which is these synthetic dyes, the aniline, moving, and the intense purple color. I don't know if this is truly right nga report, because way before in ancient times none of my purple, none of red, none of rainbow color, but maybe dili din nga part of the world, and in this part of the world dili pa prevalent ang use of this die, maybe because only the kings and the royal people can afford to buy this type of pigment. I-apply nila sa ilang tapestry o sa ilang wardrobe. But now, with the discovery of synthetic dyes, synthetic meaning it can be produced artificially, so it can be made available to a large number of people cheaply and more economically. Dili na dayon kaingon nga ang suot og purple robe and dresses and dyed cloths kinirang mga dato, but it can be made available sa masses. And lastly, actually dili gid siya ingon nga last because kani nga during this era it's a constant revolution of ideas and new discoveries and new changes. But sa latter end ani nga era is the development of a better way of farming, no? Or to produce more robust and healthier crops nga mo last longer kung imo siyang i-store than before nga dili gid tingali kayo nutritionally competitive than the latter part of the era. So karon si Justice von Liebig, considered to be the father of the fertilizer industry, nakadiscover siya sa nitrogen as an essential plant nutrient. So he promoted the use of inorganic minerals to plant nutrition. So before organic lang, which takes a while to ferment and to produce because imo po man siyang ipa-season, pila ka months aya pa siya nga dili siya ingon nga active ingredient mo sunog sa imong tanom. But na a better way of producing farm produce or ang tawag tawag na niya sa pagpatubo og mga crops nga dili nga ni kadugay magulat og organic nga minerals for plant nutrition. So he attempted to implement his theories commercially, kini si Justice von Liebig, through a fertilizer created by treating phosphate of lime in bone meal with sulfuric acid. No? So the importance of ammonia as fertilizer. Minadiha ang kung tanaw nimo ang formula sa ammonia, nadya ang nitrogen which breaks down into nitrogen kining ammonia pag abot sa yuta. Kung imo na ni siyang gidilig sa imong mga tinanom. Thus, ang consequence is a more robust and healthier plant produce than kung wala ni siya nimo gisagol sa imong panubig sa imong mga tanom. And then, the paper by the advanced mechanization na design ang Fournier machine built by Sealy and Henry Ford Drenier stationers in London, meaning stationers kanang paper manufacturer. So the Graham Paper Company was founded during the beginning stages of the Second Industrial Revolution. So the beginning stages is around maybe late 1860s, early 1870s, wala siya ang latter, the beginning stages of the Industry 2.0 by Charles Finnerty. So sila man ang primero naka-invent sa machine nga ma-extract og wood fiber nga mo generate og paper na dayon, but then ang naka-plaster gid sa process nga naka-produce gid og paper kini nga panahon nila ni Sealy and Henry Ford Rainier, paper makers from London, by their Ford Rainier machine. And of course, as I mentioned gid kaganina, kaning term nga domino effect. O domino effect na dahil na siya, di ba? Once na paper, na newspaper, na magazines, na kining written report, na visual advertisement, pwede na kay flyers, and then by the advent of colors, syempre ma-apply na siya sa kanang colored nga catalogs, colored nga mga flyers, and ad materials. So it's a wonderful thing to be in this era wherein new and exciting developments are generated every day, almost every day, or almost every year. There are new discoveries, and everyone wants to get into the bandwagon of this change, the spirit of looking into the future excitingly, because new and wonderful things are awaiting them in the near future. So it's a wonderful thing to be in this era. Kita na naman ta sa receiving end of all these wonderful inventions nga innovate na lang nato karon. Gamay na lang gid kaayo ang new discoveries, because almost all types of material there is that can be developed, that can be improved, nana din sa atong panahon. So to sum it all up, Industry 2.0, or the second wave of industrial revolution, is a revolution full of inventions. Although the second industrial revolution happened just a few years after the first industrial revolution, it was a big leap forward as its predecessor. The second industrial revolution enabled globalization and created a rough draft for our world today. That's all, and good morning.